Camera and microphone when you speak, but please turn them back off again afterwards. All councillors must ensure their cameras remain on. Could I please ask Democratic Services to begin recording? Thank you, Mair. Round our pob, croeso cyfarfod heddiw. Good afternoon and welcome to Corporate Support and Resource Scrutiny meeting on Tuesday, the 31st of January 2023. Please note the meeting's been recorded and may be broadcast via the authority's internet site. The images and sound recording may also be used for training purposes within the authority. Okay, once we've got the preamble out the way, I think that takes quite a length of time before we start. We'll move on to the main agenda for this evening. Agenda item 1 is apologies for absence. Thanks, Mair. Agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Councillor Mitten.
Chair, I'm okay to talk now. Chair, I haven't got a declaration of interest, but just as a matter of record, and the monitoring officer of the council is aware, I have my phone on, I have it on silent, and that is just because of the special needs of my daughter in case I have to answer any texts that come through. I'm happy to disclose and explain why to the chair, but outside of this meeting, if that's okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Mitten. No, that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Lee Davis.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Sorry I couldn't be there today. COVID within the house. Yeah, I declare an interest in item agenda 3, I think it is. Yeah, I run a program that receives Shared Prosperity Fund.
Lee, just to confirm, you're okay to talk and listen to the debate and ask questions and comments about it.
Yeah, I'm just declaring an interest. Yeah, I believe I'm able to talk about it, but yeah.
Okay, thanks, Lee. Okay, we'll move on to the reports on the agenda. Agenda item 3 is the EU replacement funding programmes levelling up and shared prosperity. This comes under Councillor Geraint Thomas' portfolio. Unfortunately, Geraint is not here today, so I assume. Okay, Ryan Barry is going to cover the report. Yeah. Okay, thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, Chair. Just to give an overview of the report, just a quick 5-minute overview. So the scrutiny report covers previous reports made under this subject pretty much since the Brexit referendum in 2014. But there's been numerous reports referencing loss of EU funding and EU structural funds in general. So it touches upon the UK government's replacement funds, i.e. the Levelling Up programme, which is probably in existence for the last 2 years, and more specifically touches on the Community Renewal Fund we outlined last year and managed that on UK government's behalf, the Levelling Up Capital Grant as well, and also more specifically for this conversation, the Shared Prosperity Fund, which we reference as SPF. So in terms of where we were, the report touches upon a little bit more detail in terms of the Community Renewal Fund that we managed last year. That was the precursor to the Shared Prosperity Fund. Within Merthyr Tydfil, we've secured about £1.9 million, which we disseminated amongst 4 social enterprises, and we had a little bit of finance internally to run a regional employability programme. In relation to where we are now, the report gives information concerning the Levelling Up Capital Grant, so it touches upon our application and how it was unsuccessful. Also, the Community Ownership Fund and the Multiply Programme just gives information on what that looks like. More importantly, like I said previously, it touches upon the SPF programme, and there's 3 priority areas, which is made up of 53 separate interventions. In particular, SPF it talks about the levels of finance allocated to South East Wales. So that 270 million, which was dismantled and allocated to each of the 10 local authorities, with Merthyr Tydfil receiving just under £23 million of funding for the 3-year programme, even though we've only got 2 years left. It explains the process we went through in terms of allocating finances against key priorities for the council and the needs of Merthyr Tydfil as well. So it focuses on those kind of 6, 7, or probably 7 or 8 different priority areas that we focused on as well. So in terms of the purpose of the report as well, the team wished to update members on the current position regarding UK government's levelling up funding, and more specifically around the Shared Prosperity Fund. And also the Scrutiny Committee notes the contents of the report. That's it. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Ryan. Chris, do you need to add anything else onto that? Okay, thank you, Ryan. We'll open it up to the floor to members' questions. Okay, Councillor Louise Minette-Vaux was the first one.
Thank you, Chair. My question is in relation to the Levelling Up Fund, Capital Regeneration Programme. So as you're aware, the Council applied for funding from round 2 and the application was rejected by UK Government. Can I ask what the feedback has been, or when we will have the feedback? And obviously, is that going to highlight why that application wasn't successful? But also an additional question, if there are any plans to make an application for round 3.
Thank you for the question. We've had informal feedback through our UK contact points. Informal feedback along the lines of very competitive, right? Quite a challenging environment in terms of meeting priorities. Not enough money in the UK pot at this stage. I think the application submission from a strategic perspective was correct, right? We submitted for the right thing. However, unfortunately, didn't go over the finishing line, right? If you would have seen nationally from Wales' perspective in terms of what was awarded, right? So, and there are some significant capital programs, the Cardiff Rail Link, 50 million, right? That were supported. There were projects that weren't supported as well, which we felt were very, very ready and worthy, within Wales. So it's hard to see through that, if I'm honest with you. What's the positive feedback we've had is there will be a round 3, right? So we will be submitting a round 3, right? But again, we yet to have the formal feedback. Well, I think that's a couple of weeks away. So we'll do that, and then we'll regroup. And I think hopefully our submission will be far stronger this time. Hopefully we can get the significant capital levelling up is given in, because it is, there's no other game in town to that level of capital finance at the moment. So if you think of the projects that we're pushing through, it really is at that scale, and you can see the mood music around the UK, what type of projects they want to support, and it is about transformational change, right? And I still think our projects are very much around transformational change. So I think the projects are right place, right time. And I guess Wales having its right allocation as well, because there's only 5 feedback we've had. There's only 5 local authorities in Wales haven't had the levelling up application. We are one of 5. So, if you read those signals again, not looking into it too much, hopefully it'll come good for us in the spring, summer this year. So, does that answer the question? Thanks. Thank you.
Any more, Louise? No? Okay. Thanks, Louise. Thanks, Chris. Councillor Lisa Mitten.
What do we see as the usage of the town centre hub? What do we see it achieving, and what's our sort of aim for that town centre hub there? Is that the one that I passed in St Tydfil Shopping Centre earlier with the branding on it?
Do you mean the old Pepperco building?
No, I
No.
just passed one out with etching branding of the council on the window.
So that's been earmarked as our consultation shop.
Right.
So as part of the regeneration program of the town centre, we're open to take out some of our designs for Gleebland site and St Ivors to the new St Ivors shopping centre. So we're open. That's the place where we can base the vision in, because I think what we recognised over a period of time, consultation tends to be specific enough to get the message out, but it's not visible enough in many aspects. So we're hoping the shop will be a better focus. So when we launch consultations, there'll be a mix of online and traditional surveys, but businesses can come into the shop to find out a little bit more.
Right.
So that's the intention with the old Samuel, isn't it?
Yeah.
The old
That's what. Yeah.
The hub is the old Pep and Co building,
Got you.
which is by opposite the pharmacy.
Mm.
So that's the idea we've got as for the town centre hub,
Yeah.
which will be a mix of family support, employability, and housing support as well. We piloted the housing dimension in the old regeneration shop, which is in Chief Lane, next to the BCB, which is quite small, and that's had good success really as a visibility.
Yeah.
Instead, balanced against, I think, housing service operating the one-stop shop. I think just slightly moving it out the civic centre has really, really worked in terms of access and availability of staff. So that's the town centre hub we want to grow. So there are two different things in there.
And currently in that Pep and Co shop, they've got that talking shop, haven't they, at the moment? Will it replicate some element of that, Chris? Because even today when I walked past there, there were people in there chatting and things like that. And so just encouraging people to have somewhere to go where they can, find out information. And
there's been a lot of discussions around retaining components of the talking shop model.
Right.
I know Deb and the team are still in discussions with that entity of providing space for them.
Yeah.
Not in its entirety.
No.
Right, because there won't be enough space.
Yeah.
But a model of usage in terms of whether it be a couple of hours a week, because there will be space in there for agencies to use.
Right.
So the talking shop model and principle
Yeah.
won't be at the front end of our gateway.
Yeah.
Won't be. Right, I think we've made that pretty clear.
Yeah.
But the value in terms of the pilot of the talking shop with Lee, Lee initiated that.
Yeah.
Is of value in terms of the compendium support that'll operate within there.
Cool. Okay, thank you. Chair, I just have another question, if I can ask if that's right. So, guys, in the and girls, in the bear with me, I do apologise. So in the overview, obviously we've got in there at 5.2 the table, and it does talk about the multiply programme towards the latter end. Inevitably, this is something close to my heart. But and I know firstly, let me commend you as well in the objectives and the ideas that you've got, because I know it hasn't been easy with the deadlines that have surpassed and things like that as well, so you've been hitting your head against a brick wall a little bit. And I know the same's applied to the multiply programme, because this came to us in Wales without a lot of sort of terms, definition, etc. So I'm sort of speaking myself out, talking myself out of it. But I guess my question is where are we at with it? And secondly, really, I guess this is just a shout out to engage with our local training providers, as well as schools and colleges as well, because they can certainly provide the professionalism in order for you to achieve that multiply objective. And sorry, just, I know that other RSPs, have been talking about this and engaging in that way. So I just wanted to see where we were on it as far as the local authority is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, so Chris Hall and Sue Walker have been leading on that element, even though it is part of the Shared Prosperity Fund. And as you stated, in absence of formal terms and conditions, it has been quite a challenge to deliver upon the multiply for the adult numeracy side of things. We will be, as noted in the report, we will be intending to request the rollover of funding. What happened before the regional plan was submitted was that the leads of each region the 4 regions in Wales, had a meeting with UK government and WLGA, and the multiplier amount was reduced. So that's as noted in the report there. So it's been reduced to the 4.72, well, that's 3.7 million pounds. We are still waiting on confirmation as to what will happen to that underspend, because what we've requested is that that comes back to us so that we can still utilise that in some way. But yes, our report that will go into the Rhondda Cynon Taf as the lead will request that the remainder of any spend that's outstanding on the multiply will get put into year 23-24 to be spent. We have been told that there will be no possibility of moving money between the financial years, but as there was such a delay, the UK government has said that we can apply for that.
Great.
Is that okay?
Yeah, no, that's fine, Joe. Thank you. I think for me, it's just a reminder that, you know, something that I know providers are endeavouring to get the message out there about is parity of esteem for post-16 education. So when we talk about adult education, adult learning, you know, it's not just FE, albeit all well and good, and there are excellent partnerships there, but just reminding about our training providers and the staff that they have there to be able to deliver any project they may consider in the future. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Mitten. Before I move on to Gary Thomas and then to Lee Davis, who raised their hands, you're going to have to accept my apologies, but I think I'll blame Chris on this. But the lady to your left, Chris, sorry, you just spoken. I'm sorry, but could you introduce yourself, probably, because we never met, and I'm not sure if other members have as well. So please accept my apologies, but I do blame Chris Long for this.
Well, apologies, Chair. My name is Joe Davis, and I programme manage the UK Shared Prosperity Fund for Merthyr Tydfil. So I work alongside Ryan and Chris in the department.
Brilliant. Thank you, Joanne. It's much appreciated.
Apologies.
Apologies accepted, Chris. Okay, we'll move on to Gary Thomas.
And talk now, Chair, all right? Yeah, right. Nothing too heavy, guys. Just the questions along the report that you produced. The report is what it is. That's the position we're at with regards to the allocation of funding. But very nosy, the first question. And the 4.4, you got Merthyr Leisure Trust. You mean given a grant? I don't know what the grant is for, or how much money. But what was it for? The grant itself is one question.
So, as I discussed in the kind of overview, the precursor to Shared Prosperity Funds was the Community Renewal Fund. So that 1.9 million that we had for those 4 social enterprises last year to develop programmes. So Councillor Lee Davis led on one project application around the creative arts using Red House and 2 other venues in Merthyr Tydfil, and all around training and the creative industries and using different technologies, etc., including radio. A really good and meaningful programme, really, which hit a lot of targets, and it was the biggest applicant of our finance. I think it was literally just over £1 million out of the 1.9, so a vast amount with a huge amount of sub-partners, which Councillor Davis had to manage. So in terms of that community renewal, we always had aspirations. Those 4 projects, if they were meaningful enough and worthwhile enough, and were evaluated in such a way that we thought there'd be progression into a new formalised project, they would be able to have finance from Shared Prosperity Fund in order to roll that out again, based on learning, based on evaluation, and based on kind of broader targets as well. So, and that's what we tried to replicate. So 3 of those 4 projects have naturally kind of rolled over because we were happy and content with the fact that they would still make massive inroads under those 3 priority areas within Shared Prosperity Fund. So even though it's a less amount, I'm not going into detail quickly straight away exactly how much, but it's a lot less than £1 million. But again, it's still going to be managed in such a way that the core team with Joe and the rest of the guys will manage that project out. So that's
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, fine. Just as you always say no to this one, and the 5.6, the amount of money you've been allocated as a council. Perhaps you're not. Question is, are you satisfied with that amount? But is it acceptable amount compared to the allocation to other authorities? And are we happy that it's been allocated in the right way?
I think there was obviously a formula UK government used there and based on deprivation size local authority, which is natural process in terms of allocation, right? What's interesting there in terms of the level of funds Merthyr had compared to the cities, right? Because whilst SPF is not a many respects, it's a replacement to European funding. Cities never had the European funding. Right? The RDF, ESF, they weren't deprived. They weren't in deprived authorities. It was very much around the valleys authorities. So you can look at it from a number of aspects, really. You know, the cities must be absolutely delighted that they've got this level of money because they never experienced that money in a European context. Right? So there's a balance there, I think, in terms of our allocation, right? Just under 23 million. You know, if you look at RCT's allocation 37, you probably think, well, hang on, proportionately they always get more than us, right? So 23 million is a reasonable sum. The other thing I'd like to comment on as well is, I think, and Councillor Mitten mentioned this earlier, we had the guidance in May. We expected the guidance in May, but what came in was the allocation, right? So with the allocation was the directive, create your plan in 8 weeks and submit it on August the 1st, right? So that is fast track investment plan developments, right? And Ryan alluded to it as well. We were lucky, I think we knew the council priorities, community priorities. We had an economic growth strategy. We had an economic recovery plan. We had a town centre master plan that we could go to for those actions to derive a local investment plan, right? So turning that around in terms of the 23 million, I think that seemed comfortable to meet the forecast in terms of development plan against the number. We always want more. We always want more, right?
Accept that.
But I think it's something that is a good baseline in terms of moving forward. £23 million revenue. Don't forget, it's a revenue allocation, small capital, 2 years. Historically, we've never had that amount in 2 years. The European programme on ESF was on employability with Deb Newton and Communities for Work. You know, that was a £10 million historic allocation over 5 years. So proportionately, right, it's a reasonable amount to work on. And I think that term work on is that we have a new relationship here through Sprung with UK government. Right? We've never had that before. It was always the Welsh European Funding Office, WEFO, and Welsh Government. So again, brand new, it's all new, it's a brand new programme. So to receive an allocation of 23 million, I think from my perspective, that's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
And we got to build on that, Oga. I think we got to make sure that we deliver on it. Because the other thing with this is, cumulative sum across the region is, including multiply, to 270 million.
Yeah.
So that's a big sum to local government in South East Wales, right? Pressure's on us to deliver on it, right? And if we deliver, hopefully we can build on that momentum in relation to UK government. So next time round, we can ask for probably proportionally higher, right? So jury's out on whether we'll all deliver on it. It's a very fast revenue programme, this. Hopefully we can get some real traction in the next couple of months to spend our allocation. So sorry I went round in circles there, but I thought it would be worth you getting the wider picture, Gar.
Yeah, fine. Yeah,
Thank
great.
you.
No problem at all. Charles has spent in 2 years, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was a bit concerned in paragraph 5.7, but Joe may have answered this one already. It's the way you've had to put a revised programme forward. And obviously decision making time takes quite a time sometimes. Are you now saying that the government has agreed that we can carry this year's money over into next year? Or was you just referring to that word multiplier thing you were talking about?
That's right.
So,
We've
so we can't carry this. We haven't had a decision on the rest of the money yet.
what we've been requested to do via the lead authority is to do in essence a credible plan, which we've been informed is more like a reprofile. So what they want to know is how much money we spent in this financial year and how much the underspend would potentially be, so that then we can roll it 3/24.
You will be able to roll it over.
That's what they've indicated, yes.
No, they indicated, but can you? But the reason I'm asking is with all things, the time it takes to make a decision. If they
Absolutely.
decide to say you cannot, you then got to spend that money by the end of March.
The premise is can.
Yeah.
Waiting for UK government to categorically tell us. And that's not just us, that's everybody needs.
No, so every thought the same boat, I suspect. Yeah. But
We're working on the premise that we can, and hopefully we get that authority in the next couple of weeks.
so you've reprofiled, so you can spend what you can't spend this year.
Yeah.
Hoping that we'd be able to carry over portion next year.
Yeah.
Okay. Paragraph 511. Excuse me with my eyes. The core team using SPS administrative funding, etc., etc. Perhaps you're not the people I should ask this question to, but I'm thinking of the council's efficiency program, budget, etc., 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 with the pressures on various departments to offer up savings, etc. May say yes or no to this. And do you think there'll be sufficient capacity within the team now then to meet this program, considering the potential efficiency programs coming forward on the budgets?
So from our program delivery perspective, I think that's the model that we've used in the past, right, on similar programs. So it needed a program manager, it needed a finance and 2 monitoring officers. So proportionately we felt that was the right balance in terms of managing 23 million. I think we've started right in terms of the program. There's a lot of work to do internally and externally to create the governance and project management framework, right? But we're not starting from scratch on that, right? And we've started to work with key officers and managers and directors that are responsible for the programs. There is a concern over, what will happen in the next couple of months with the efficiencies and whether the structures will still be in place to deliver on these projects. But that's in our risk log. So we monitor that really, really closely at the moment in terms of making sure what we said we do in our investment plan, we can still deliver on it because things have changed, haven't they?
Good.
Right. So at a point of delivery, at a point of submission, that £11 million saving for the council wasn't it in as hard, right? So it is a factor, and I think we are carefully considering where the pinch points are going to be in the program, right? I think for the majority of external projects, well, we should take some comfort that they will be delivered. Because there are projects in situ that, building on Ryan's point, are rolled in CRF projects, right? And other projects in the college and MTIB that will flow, right? So we should take confidence that they will still be delivered. It's the internal projects, specifically around enhanced community safety and tidy towns, right? Which are the visibility programs that we need in the town centre. Absolutely, right? We're making sure we got the right resources balanced to still manage out those projects. But it's a good question, and it's a question we look at not every day. I'm not losing sleep
Been
over
here
it.
before, so okay, I had to ask.
I know.
So it's going to link the tidy towns then, and the efficiency program. Is there any likelihood of the tidy towns be used to absorb some of the issues that may arise with recommendation or suggestion put forward for street cleansing?
Possibly.
Sorry, Chair, as I say, it's quite an important question, that one, because again, we haven't got the big picture and we've come to look at efficiencies.
Yeah.
It's the knock-on
All I can
effects
say-
of
all I can
decision
say-
making
yeah,
and the
all-
opportunities.
All I can say at this point in time, that's been factored into our considerations.
Sorry, because one view is for the chair, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Did nobody want
Yeah.
to spot that one?
No, it's okay.
Just maybe ask.
I don't mind being on the spot.
All right, come the next one then.
Keep going.
No, nothing heavier. Working with RCT, they take the lead, obviously. Yeah, wonderful people that they are. Waiting for the signing off of the terms and conditions. Is that going to have any impact at all? We're still waiting for them to do that? We know they tend to take a bit of time, don't they? The discussions in-house. Does that going to impact the program at all in any way? Or we are continuing the work we're doing, waiting for that to come through?
Yeah, that's you've answered your question there, guys. I think is, there will the premise of RCT leading on a £270 million programme. Who else could have done it? That was the big consideration, right? So them volunteering to do it, I think, is one thing. They have a team in place as well of a management team, program management, finance, monitoring officers. That's new. So yeah, it has been a little slow, right? But I think we are where we are, and hopefully we can get the T's and C's in place that we can run with it. But there's getting back to the premise that we're running with this.
Yeah, so it doesn't impact what we're
No.
doing at the moment. That's
No.
a key point making.
No. All right.
Yeah, and it comes back down to the precursor project, Community Renewal Fund, that we managed last year, which is pretty much the same project as SPF. So we're lucky we've got that under our belt. We know what the funding agreement looked like with the UK government for as a lead authority perspective. So pretty much that should be replicated across the board. So when we talk about development and running of grant schemes, etc., and other little bits and pieces, I think we know where we sit in terms of intervention rates based on social enterprises, the private sector, and all these other things. So there may be slight tweaks, but we should literally be replicating what it was last year with the small touches, really.
Yeah, it's just time it takes with RCT, that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
Just something just occurred to me to come back to the efficiencies discussion we just had. The team you've created in-house now, is it from existing workforce or from outside? And if it's existing workforce in-house, the team, have you been using core money? Are they co-funded or are they grant funded? So there's an opportunity there. If they co-funded and you're using the program money to pay their salaries, you've got a potential saving then of the co-fund to offer back to the centre.
I'll cover that one.
All right.
Yeah, so we've got 4 in the core team. We use existing staff. 2 of the officers, there's 4 in the core team. Existing staff for 3 of those posts. Oh no, it was 4, sorry. Yeah, so 2 whose project or contracts were ending, 2 officers. And
Are they
obviously
co-funded or grant funded?
grant funded.
Right.
Yeah, all grant funded.
That's the
Across
point
the
of it.
board.
They're all grant funded.
All grant funded, all paid, all financed out of the Shared Prosperity Fund co-allocation. So I think altogether we had about £580,000 to spend on the team over the 3-year period, because we can always go back to April 2022, not that we needed to. So yeah, all
All grant funded. So there's no opportunity there to make potential savings for the central funds.
No, not at that point. No.
Okay.
We touches 5.2 a little bit, right? On things that SPF can fund. We have to be really careful that this programme doesn't displace any statutory functions within the local authority. We have to be really careful of that, right? And we are mindful of the fact of the current financial deficit of the local authority, right? And those conversations are taking place really in terms of it's always going to be seen as added value services to a baseline core. So more of, make it better, right? The region is talking about this very fiercely at the moment because everybody's got holes in their budget. But the guidance is pretty specific around added value, be careful on displacement, which is the core to any external funding grant. But it's just the climate at the moment for local government coincides with the region getting £270 million of revenue. That's the debate, isn't it? Yeah. Thanks.
If the opportunity is there, we take it, wouldn't we?
No comment.
Exactly. Last one for you, Chair. It says going to paragraph 6.3 there, you're making reference to a number of funding programs, etc. Out of interest, again, perhaps from not my just point of view, but the Fossa Fran Community Fund as it stands at the moment, is that likely to continue if the gentleman's successful in his application for extension up at Fossa Fran? And the question I'm leading to is that will you still be looking at opportunities within the programme to use the fund to maximise what we're doing with other opportunities? Can I understand that the fund will probably be prioritising anti-poverty in future? So I've been led to believe, and obviously that's an add-on, and when you come to assess such matters, it's the added value all the time. So I assume that's already in your discussions.
You are the Fossa Fran man.
Yeah, not much. I wouldn't say that. Yeah, so obviously discussions are taking place in terms of Fossa Fran and an extension of that period. So we would all hope to think that we could utilise those 3 kind of fossil fuel grant schemes from the intermediate to large, etc. So yeah, we also have aspirations of utilising that funding, as well as other kind of opportunities of external funding and internal funding schemes as well. So what we're going to try and do is max out as much money as we can, but also be strategic enough. So for instance, like Joe and the team manage some of the social enterprise kind of programs there, and we'd always look to max out that kind of cocktail finance structure, because we'd want everyone dependent on SPF funding to run sustainable projects. So we'd always look at kind of other opportunities. So I think the team is strategic enough, and the team we will pull together will be strategic enough in terms of looking and see what funds fit what, and use that kind of cocktail funding relationship. In terms of seeing what the priorities are post 2025, still unknown. I think we'll never get away from that kind of poverty agenda. But as you can appreciate, everything evolves as you know, we're in we're kind of utility energy kind of crisis at the moment, which we wouldn't be thinking about 2 years ago. So things could naturally change. A national government will or could potentially change, and their priorities will change there. So still a lot of unknowns, but I think we're adaptable enough and flexible enough to adapt to whatever way we need to kind of develop a new post 2025 program, really.
So still be looking to continue the existing agreement with regards to money per tonnage then from the Cope and Cast.
I haven't heard anything different, but I haven't heard anything around that staying as it is. But
sorry, Guy, I don't think it's really relevant to this report, if I may say.
It's a question of good interest, finance for
I'd rather
funding.
to be honest, I'd rather stick to the script of the report if I can, Chair. Thank you.
Question been answered, that's fine.
Thank you.
Any further questions, guy? Any further questions? Councillor Lee Davis.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, a couple of questions. Partnership with the UK government. How do you feel it's gone? Obviously, it's a different type of partnership as you worked before. Do you think it's worked well?
Yeah, from the get-go, yes. I think they've been very visible. They've come to Merthyr. I think Michael Goes visited Cyfarthfa Park back last spring. So at the time he was a minister responsible for the programme. He left and then he's come back. So there's an interest in Merthyr. So he'd never been to Merthyr before. So I think he was impressed with what he saw Lee up at the park. So I think from a minister's perspective, yes, we deal with a couple of junior civil servants who are accessible. I think they are obviously guided by, Whitehall at the moment in terms of what they're allowed to release, etc. But it's all in a framework, right? It is what it is. I think it is different to the Welsh European Funding Office. Absolutely different relationship completely, where you couldn't get to meet WEFO, if I'm honest with you, right? That was difficult. These guys are accessible. I think the programme that they are guiding and giving advice on is pretty clear, really, in its objectives. Whereas historically, you need to be a scientist to understand European legislation in terms of ERDF and ESF. So that's changed. So yeah, early days, we're still in a honeymoon period. There's still, I think, lots to unfold within the programme. They've used the terms light touch frequently. So only time will tell on whether that light touch gets a little bit tougher as it moves on. They want to spend money. That's the big thing. They have a budget to spend. So yeah, in answering your question, Lee, been pretty good to date. Myself, Joe and Rai meet with these guys on a monthly basis, right? So information is free flowing. They're really interested to find out about the project in Merthyr on the ground, which is really, really good.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Yeah, obviously they came to Merthyr, and that's quite rare, to be honest. Funders come in to visit projects, so I thought that was really good.
Yeah.
The other question I got is around, obviously, like, it's a 3-year program, and we're nearly into the year two really of the projects. Do you feel like with it being so late, it'll have an impact on delivery of any of the projects?
Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I mentioned earlier, so it's a very, very tight, fast revenue spend, this, right? We need, with good governance, good project management, right? We should see a lot of these projects mature and grow and spend, right? You can't predict the unknown, right? To be honest with you. There might be another reprofile, right? We might have an opportunity to reprofile a year now, because projects from concept stage, as you know, Lee, all the best plans in the world can change, right? Things come as opportunities. You might want to change your forecast. It might be something new, right? You want to do. So there's a lot of flexibility in the program as well, right? So it is pretty flexible across within the interventions, right? So hopefully, as a partnership locally and regionally, there's going to be a lot of flex. The other important point as well is we don't want to give any money back. Right? We don't want to give any money back locally, and we don't want to give any money back regionally, because regionally it might be cumulative spend for each local authority. So the relationship we have with the RCT and our neighbouring authorities is going to be critical here, right? Because I don't think there's been many programs where some local authorities said, okay, I'm not spending my millions, give it to someone else. Right, so that's going to be the challenge, Lee. Right, and we need to develop maturity as well with other local authorities on that subject. Right, so we don't give a penny back to UK government. Those conversations are taking place, right, regionally, but locally we need to be on our A game, both internally and externally, to deliver on this. I don't know whether you want to comment, Joe.
Oh, thanks, Chris. Just to add, I see it as one of the main functions of the programme team to build relationships, both internally, cross-departmentally and externally, with the project deliverers via the Shared Prosperity Fund. So putting those monitoring and reporting processes in place alongside, obviously we need those formal terms and conditions, but putting those reporting processes in place and working with you, working with all the project deliverers, it's to mitigate that risk, isn't it? To kind of, so that we ensure that we are getting the best value for Merthyr Tydfil.
Thanks both. I did have a question about profiling, but sorry, Chair, it might turn into a bit of a comment. I guess that being late, the profiling seemed quite restrictive for a 3-year program on year 1, year 2, year 3. But I guess if they allowed to move that money into year 2, that the way it's profiled then would probably be better. Well, I feel anyway. I don't know what you guys feel.
No, you're spot on there, Councillor Davies. The fact we can move money is great, and we can utilise it as best we can. I think we're quite fortunate. We've got an experienced core team here with Joe and the guys in terms of their experience and knowledge of and the creativity of utilising spend as well and spending money and monitoring projects. So the fact that we can roll year 1 money into year 2, the way the programme was profiled, that wasn't the best in terms of a revenue project. In an ideal world, we both worked on kind of externally revenue projects, and that has to be programmed out to the in such a way that it's synced up perfectly, where you're employing staff to do A, B, C, and D, or contractors, etc. So with this project, we're fortunate enough that we can capitalise revenue, but not the other way around. So if we know that there is kind of shortfalls in revenue finance and there's opportunities to run a grant scheme, for instance, or undertake capital works on certain things, we know it's a quicker way of spending money. So this is where the creativity comes in as well. So I'm not saying that's a safeguarding thing, but it's certainly within our risk log, within our programme, and something we were always considering in terms of looking at the future spend of the programme. Plus, again, creativity in terms of mopping up some of the spend in certain areas and spending in other areas. When I say areas, not different local authorities. I'm on about obviously different kind of themes or interventions, but still hitting the same kind of outputs and outcomes.
Thanks, Ryan. That's it for me, Chair. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Councillor Davis. Councillor David Jones.
Thank you, Chair. Curiosity is around my questions. First of all, who are H-Factor Group's CYF?
So H-Factor are an organisation that are based in Aberfan that run a number of initiatives within that area, within the Aberfan and Merthyr Vale area, that focus on planting of agricultural kind of developments to solar panels, training young people, etc. So within the CRF context last year, they wanted to run a energy efficiency kind of academy linked to one of the colleges. I think it might have been Coleg Cymraeg, where they had young people going through the system, training them up to do solar panel work and implementation works, and also agricultural kind of projects in Aberfan itself. So they took over some land and done some other little bits and pieces. Just to add a little bit of context again onto the CRF project, it was not originally, it was going to be a short kind of 6-month period. But then we had an extension to 9-10 months after. So instead of ending in end of August, it ended in the end of December. So again, we just kind of outlined the fact that you can kind of stretch these projects there. So under H-Factor, yeah, they've done some nice little initiatives down there. And that's pretty much where we are. We're still waiting for that one project evaluation from those guys. We've got the other 3 and we're happy with those. We're still waiting for that last one though.
Thank you very much for that. It's great that we were successful on 4, but unsuccessful on 2. Of those, the 2 that were unsuccessful, have they affected any other future initiatives, programs that you had in mind? And what were they as well?
Yeah, one project was Gethley Dig Foundation, and it was set around the development of an app. I'm just going to rack my brains now in terms of what they were looking at exactly. But in terms of scoring, it scored lower than some of the other projects. We had to score them independently as a council and then send them to UK government. And they've scored in such a way that it didn't go under the target. Anything over 50% of a score went through to UK government. So all 6 went through to UK government. I think the total amount that we could have had was around 2.8 million out of that 3 million allocation. So Getting Dig were one, and Toyn Action Group were the other. Toyn Action Group's project was pretty much around community development and using community spaces. So whereas CRF was looking at innovation and diverse ways of working and looking at well, certain things that are all focused around harder outputs, that come in under that kind of pretense, and so it was a difficult one. So what we had to do was independently score each of those 6 projects using both ends of the political scale, and also senior officers who deal with these kind of application processes. Score them to a certain extent. They all scored over 50%, send them off to UK government, and then UK government decided they were only going to fund 4 of those projects to the value of 1.9 million.
Yeah, it's good they've got 4 of them.
Yeah.
4 of them through. So is it positive in my books? And the last one for me, page 9, community schools, 3.15 million. What type of how will this money be spent? What type of development will it be?
I think one of the innovations or one of the opportunities that has come along through the Shared Prosperity Fund is, and this is being reflected via, I know we've called it community schools, but essentially it's integration of our community focused schools into community venues working with the schools. How, I suppose in a sense, we might be talking around a hybrid communities first. It links into the town centre hub. It's how our communities interact with each other, so that there's no separation, there's no silo working. So that amount of money there, it will enable that kind of the development the redevelopment, a new development of such of a project that will work across the borough and will make sure that our learning facilities are getting more involved in our community activities and I suppose vice versa. One of the things that obviously we're all aware of is, for instance, in our community venues, warm hubs, food banks, and that kind of thing, and how our schools interact with that, you know, and so there's a lot of different strands within that. But it's I think it's one of the most exciting projects there that could really lead into something quite good for post 2025 as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Jones. Councillor Kevin Gibbs.
Thanks, Chair. My questions, 5.14, the levelling up fund that you applied for the capital bid or the round 2, said you're expecting to hear results by the end of January, and it's the 31st today. So I was wondering if you'd had any news on those results.
I think it's the conversation we had earlier, wasn't it? In terms of we were unsuccessful. Yeah.
We were unsuccessful.
We were unsuccessful. We're waiting. We've had some feedback on it, but we haven't had the formal feedback on it.
Right.
I will say as well, sorry, Councillor Gibbs, that that change was made very, very quickly. We found out literally on the day we had to submit the report. So we thought it's worthwhile putting it in there rather than discussing it now, in terms of just giving the reader the view that it was unsuccessful as well. So yeah.
So does that mean now it's 5 out of 7, 4 to 7 rather than 4 to 6?
No, that's a separate.
That's the separate fund.
Yeah, that was the Levelling Up Capital Grant, sure, not the Community Renewal Fund or Shared Prosperity Fund.
Lovely. And obviously we put a bid in for something to be able to do something. Can you remind us what we're missing out on? Potentially.
I don't think I can.
Okay.
Because the report was exempt. It's quite commercially sensitive.
Okay.
So I don't think I can comment on that at this point in time.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Ed.
Thanks, Kevin. That probably answers one of my little questions, Chris, in terms of a potential area close to where I live. So I won't ask that question at this stage. I've got a couple of other questions. Section 3 of the report, we stated that all CRF funded projects within Merthyr Tydfil have now been completed and final evaluations have been received by the local authority, each of which will be submitted to the UK government by the end of January 2023. So have these now been submitted to UK government?
We've got 3 full project evaluations, and we've got 1 draft evaluation which we are finalising, and we are expecting it to have. We could have it now. To be honest, we've been in conversation with H Factor this morning, so that's just being finalised. So by the time I get home tonight, I got to tweak the final report and then send that to UK government. So we are pretty much on target there. The draft report reads well anyway, but yeah, the final report is just ticking a box for us really from an audit perspective, and we'll send all the information on to the UK government then.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. Chris, I appreciate you don't want to answer this question, and I'm not going to ask the question specifically, but will we be receiving any communication in terms of that exempt item going forward?
In short, yeah. Sorry. In short, yes. I think we've agreed to wait for the formal feedback, right? That's the most sensible thing to do. We'll be presenting a report to our corporate management team on the implications in terms of the unsuccessful application, and then I think it's taking stock really, because as I mentioned earlier, there's the expectation of around 3, right, in the spring. We don't know whether the priorities will change. So it's a case of dusting ourselves down really, and not forgetting what we absolutely need to do on that site, right? Without telling you what it is, even though you know. Thanks, Chair.
That's great. No, thanks, Chris. That answers that. And just want to touch slightly on the SPF allocation for Merthyr. I understand the conversations are taking place regionally, etc., about the funding, the spending, etc. But I just want to tease it out of you. Are we confident that we will spend our allocation?
Yes.
Can we have that in writing? It is recorded, Chris, so that's great. No, you say no more. That's thank you very much.
No, okay. Yeah, no, we have to be confident. One, because I think we have a great team in place. We have some exciting projects. We have some good projects internally and externally. Everybody, as I mentioned earlier, we need to be on A game to deliver this, right? And there is a step change in aggressive project management here and delivery, right? Both internally and externally, Chair. We've made that clear to the corporate management team that there is in the difficult situation, right? We need to be stepping up to the mark and delivering on these projects. So we have to, right? It's coming with comfort, as I mentioned earlier. There's a bit of flexibility across interventions. So if some things are slipping, we've got the ability to move finance, right, to add more value to certain components. So yeah, look, we've as a team, we as you know, Chair, we get over the finishing line on most things, right? If it's our responsibility to do it. We've never sent anything back really over the years. So yeah, that's why I'm confident that we can deliver 22,698,977 pence.
The pence are important. Thanks, Chris. Okay, moving on to my last question. Under the 7 priorities listed in 5.9, you've mentioned in there's a 1 million investment in decarbonisation. Can you elaborate on this, please, and what will the funding be used for?
So decarbonisation was seen as a priority, and we were working with Judith Jones and Ian Goldsworthy in terms of putting a bit of revenue there to look at supporting a range of clients in terms of pretty much businesses and social enterprises in terms of decarbonisation potential, the ones that certainly use buildings, etc. So having a dedicated resource over the next 2 years to advise and inform those businesses and those social enterprises. Also, we've cited a possible grant scheme in year 3. So the thinking is potentially we get people on the ground to inform and instill ideas into businesses, and then use year 3 in terms of quite a large grant scheme to implement some of these much needed changes really. So that's the thinking behind it. Whether it'll work, who knows? We think it will work. The infrastructure's there, and definitely the need is there, and the additionality from additional funding will be there in terms of, because of obviously the energy crisis and the priorities of Welsh Government and other kind of funders as well. So naturally, we think it sinks, but who knows? But yeah, it seems like a good priority area to work on.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. I haven't got any more questions. As nobody else has indicated they've got any questions, so I'll open it up to members and co-optees' comments. Councillor Mitten.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, just a comment really. I was fortunate enough to have met the Secretary of State for Levelling Up last year when I was a leader of the council. And I have to say, perhaps unprofessionally, but despite what we may have thought, he was actually very knowledgeable and knowledgeable about Merthyr Tydfil, the projects really, and you know, wishing to take those forward. So I found that quite a refreshing meeting, shall we say, one which I wasn't quite expecting it to be. And then my other comment really is I think that as a council, as a local authority, we must be mindful to support the team on all their endeavours in relation to SPF. And where I'm coming from with that is something that Chris mentioned earlier, which sort of pricked up my ears then, about making sure that the projects and what we do with the SPF money adds value, and that is of utmost importance. Because yes, we are facing massive financial issues, but you know, SPF should not and must not be used to fill financial gaps or holes, if you like, by any of the local authorities within the makeup that we have. And I think that's just an observation for me, because it really can improve, you know, what we do as local authority. We talk about decarbonisation and things like that. So we can support departments' portfolios and what we endeavour to do in our vision, but also those projects outside of the council as well. So just a comment and observation from me. Thanks, Chair. And thanks, guys, for all the hard work on it. It's massive projects, massive money. But yeah, you really do exceptional work, so thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Lee Davis.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I was going to say something about added value as well, and not losing sight of that going forward. But Lisa hit the nail on the head. Just want to thank the team, Chris, Joe, Ryan, for all their hard work with CRF and SPF. They really do punch above their weight, and congratulations on a successful CRF project, and good luck with SPF. Sit, Chair.
Thanks, Lee. Any other members? Okay, there's no other members have indicated that they'd like to comment. Chris, Joe, Ryan, can I thank you for attending today, and thank you for your honesty and candidacy with your answers. It's greatly appreciated. I hope you will leave here today feeling a little bit challenged, perhaps a little bit critically challenged, but all good questions and all good answers which we can take the scrutiny panel forward. So thank you for your attendance today, and have a lovely evening. Okay, we'll move swiftly on to agenda item 4, which is the participation strategy. The recommendations the committee received this report as content is noted and debated. I'll hand it over quickly to Councillor Andrew Barry, who'll give a brief introduction to it, and then we'll pass it over to Kerry then to go into it in a little bit more depth. Andrew.
Thank you, Chair. Participation strategy can be found in Appendix 1. We've got our own communication engagement strategy since 2015. Difficult area, participation. We've had some quite difficult engagements in recent history. Numbers have always proved to be a problem in terms of getting people to engage with us, and perhaps Kerry can pick up some of the difficulties we found in recent years. No doubt political and economic turmoil over the last 12 months will make it even more difficult for us through disengagement and people's disillusionment. But it's something we undertake as councillors and an authority to have people, you know, engaged with the authority. But if I hand you over to Kerry at that point, and then perhaps we can go through the strategy and find some of the practicalities that we find with engagement. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Barry. Just obviously reiterating what the Deputy Leader said, participation and engagement with our communities is key as part of the decision-making process. So the changes in legislation and the Local Government and Elections Act in 2021 were encouraging local authorities to develop a participation strategy, but also to look at enhanced ways of getting people more involved in, as I said, the decision-making process and the democratic process as a whole. We've worked with other local authorities, being Newport, Caerphilly, Vale of Glamorgan, and we've all obviously developed a similar strategy. But what we have done here in Merthyr is gone a little bit more deeper in relation to the democratic process and how we can how people can influence the way the democratic process is delivered. Responsibilities and implementation, I think it's something that the local authority it needs to look at as part of its culture. So we're making sure that all departments, when they go out and engage and consult with the communities, that they do it in a meaningful way. And that said as well, obviously elected members will also play a key role in that. As I say, we've got national guidelines for consultation that we have to adhere to, but for any consultation and engagement, we will look at the gunning principles, which is included in the participation strategy, and they are just clear indicators of what we need to do for it to be, as I said, a meaningful consultation process. Just going back to the comms and consultation strategy, so you might think 2015, that was a long time. The idea was to get it reviewed in 2018-19. We then had obviously the pandemic, and then we knew these changes were coming. So all, the participation strategy will sit under and be part of our comms and engagement strategy. As I say, majority of things are included in the participation strategy, but just to touch on what the Deputy Leader said there, with regards to response rates, what we've had recently in many council meetings when we've undertaken a consultation or engagement is maybe a bit of pushback on the low numbers that we're getting back. So we work with the Consultation Institute. We've got a membership with them where they're a critical friend, if we need to, when we're delivering contentious consultations exercises, and just to make sure, we don't fall under a judicial review situation. And what they have said to us is that nationally, a consultation response is typically no higher than 1 to 2%. And a response rate of 4 to 5 would be regarded as very high. And Councillor Barry and I talked about this yesterday. It might seem low, but what you've got to think of is, with consultations, it tends to be the people who engage are those that are opposed or against it, rather than people who are for it. They'll think, oh, well, I'm quite happy those proposals. Well, really, we want them to come and give us their views if they think those proposals are positive. So we've had a discussion today in the team, and I think that's something that we go into highlight on our consultations moving forward, is to encourage those individuals, if they in favour of the proposals or a proposal, that they let us know so we can understand what they are trying to do with regards to changes to service delivery or any changes to initiatives in our county borough. So that's enough from me. If anyone got any questions.
Thanks, Kerry. Yes, I'm sure there's a few questions here today to entertain you. We'll move to Councillor Louise Minette-Vaux with the first hand up.
Thanks, Chair. My question is in relation to equality. You've mentioned equality on page 25, where it states that participation strategy needs to involve people who it considers to be representative of those with different protected characteristics, in a way that the authority carries out its function. So in the writing of this, have you consulted internally with our own equality officers in relation to the strategy, just to ensure those methods of consultation and engagement, that you are aware of how those may differ between those different groups? Have you actually worked with the equalities team?
We in the initial phase we did, but we've done a bit more work on it now. So we will be doing a follow-up to make sure we're addressing all those points. Is my mic on? Sorry.
Yeah. Because obviously there's nothing referred to in the report of methods of consultation and engagement. And to me, that's like a glaring kind of gap there. The methods in which you try and engage the community. And I appreciate you saying that having a 4% is considered high. Well, what can we do to get high consultation? So I really think that is something that can be explored, especially with equalities, in making sure that those perhaps who are marginalised in our communities are actually spoken to,
Yeah.
whether it's on footfall, face to face, you know, and obviously considering those which potentially are digitally excluded as well, you know.
Yeah, of course. So the just going back to your comment there about the method and the process and everything, and how we do engage with particular groups. We brought in March 2021. Were you on that committee then, Councillor Carter? I'm not sure. We brought our process to scrutiny to look through that and the framework and what we adopt with regards to our methods. So I'm happy, obviously, to circulate that, but it is contained in the comms and consultation strategy,
Right.
which will come at the same time to council for approval in the spring.
Lovely, thanks. And the other one, it's just, I've noticed just a bit of an error. I'm not sure whether it was intentional. On page 29, it's just not all scrutiny committees are listed. Social services and learning are left off. So I wasn't sure whether that was intentional.
No, it wasn't intentional, so I'll make a note of that. Apologies.
Okay, thank you, Kerry.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Louise. Gary?
Before I put my regulator hat on, could just a question regarding the comms and engagement strategy. A note from the forward plan, we're looking at the strategy we're looking at today, and yet within the report, several mentions are made of the importance of that other strategy. My question perhaps to not to Kerry, but yourself, Chair, why isn't the comms and engagement strategy on the forward plan as well? And to Kerry, why will we be seeing that strategy before it goes to council? Because I think the two are so interdependent. We have to have a feel from one for the other to understand. I mean, answer Louise's questions then regarding process. But until we see that document, we don't really know the full picture again.
Fair point, yes. So we are bringing the comms and consultation strategy to scrutiny, and we'll also be having the all councillor workshop for people to contribute to that before we take it to council.
Right, okay, sorry, Kerry, I've got my regulator's hat on now, unfortunately, for the development of the strategy itself, okay? So my questions are revolving around the statutory guidance that was issued back 2021 under section 44 of the Act. And my first statement is, because the council seems to be under continual scrutiny by the regulators, can it be demonstrated that when the participation strategy was being produced, due regard was given to the statutory guidance made under section 44 of the Local Government and Elections Act 2021? It's not referred to in the document, so I'm asking that.
Yes, it was. It was.
Okay, so my next request was regarding the engagement participation. The guidance states that for the public to have confidence in the council's commitment to encourage and act on their views, the participation strategy must be developed in collaboration with the public. Has this policy been developed in this way? If so, how were the public involved?
Where you reading that, please, Gar?
No, I've just quoted from the guidance. From the
quoting.
guidance, this is now, because obviously when we come to assess it, it'll be how you apply the guidance then to how we've developed it, and any regulator will start putting crosses in boxes rather than ticks if it's not done in the right way.
Yeah. Right.
So the question is, how were the public involved in the development of this policy?
Well, they haven't been really. So probably that would probably be something that we need to do some sort of consultation on the strategy then. Obviously, other authorities have published theirs, so I need to double check if they went out to do a consultation. But I'll check that beforehand. So it's fair point. If it's referencing you, we really need to engage with the public.
So I got two other questions regarding participation, and so obviously the same answer I have to that. The public have not been involved and not consulted in the preparation of the policy.
No.
But the guidance says they must be. So that's just a marker there.
Okay, yeah, as an oversight on our behalf, yeah.
Section 40 of the Act requires a principal council to prepare and publish a public participation strategy setting out how it will encourage local people to participate in its decision making and lists a number of ways how this should be done. Our office is satisfied that this has been adequately reflected in the strategy.
Maybe going back to the point that Councillor Minute-Vokes made, then perhaps we should, as an attachment, show our methodology and our framework as part of this strategy and what we do to engage, and how obviously our residents can participate. I think what we've done is we've focused a lot on the democratic process, but perhaps we need to do a little bit more on the consultation and engagement process in this.
The guidance recommends that the local authority should conduct a baseline assessment as part of its preparation for developing a public participation strategy. Was such a baseline assessment carried out, and if so, where is the evidence?
Yes, we have done that, and we can provide evidence to members if need be.
Again, it's not referred to within the document, so obviously the question arises.
Yeah, it's worth having an attachment.
So, Chair, I think it would be worthwhile perhaps to see the evidence, the assessment.
Yeah, we can do that.
And then two more questions. Starting from the baseline assessment, how will the council show it will measure progress in terms of public participation?
I think that's through our engagement process and our engagement numbers, our response rates, etc. And just going back, are we making sure that we're engaging with all particular groups? What we are trying to do is look at different ways in doing that at the moment by going back to the face-to-face steps. So we're actually going to them. Now we'll use the co-production process as well to do that. So that's obviously what our plans are to move forward with that, to measure if we're improving and encouraging participation.
Okay, last one from you, Chair. Guidance states that the strategy should set out the arrangements for approval. I think you referred to in the report, but in the report it's going to go to council in next couple of months. That's not mentioned in the policy. And review within the council. Has this been included? I can't see it in there where you say which council is going to or when it's going to be reviewed.
No, I think we do. It's in the report, isn't it?
It's not in the policy, is it?
Right. Okay. Well, we'll make reference to it in the policy. Then we can add that in.
That's all from you, Chair. Sorry, Chair.
All right.
Thanks, Gary. Before I see if anybody else wants to come in, there's a couple of questions I've got as well. But just before I ask the questions, in terms of things which we've talked about, and there's a lot of areas which have been highlighted today, which potentially need quite a substantial amount of work on. So I would like-minded to perhaps stop the debate halfway through, but I think it was important that members of the committee ask questions and perhaps express views, because it would possibly benefit the strategy going forward. So yeah, what I would like, and I'm sure everybody else in the group would like, would be for the report to come back with everything else which has been considered, so that we can look at it again and perhaps include the communication and engagement strategy at the same time, Kev. Are you okay with that? Would you have any sort of timeline, or you would, I'm conscious of the fact that I wouldn't say we need it by 2-3 weeks time, etc. So we wouldn't want to put you under undue stress with everything. That would be fine by me, and I'm sure it'd be fine with everybody else, but is that enough of a time scale for yourself?
I think the March agendas, that gives Kerry and the team a little bit longer as well, and because we've only got one item on the 14th.
I'm happy with that. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, thank you.
Sorry,
God, just saying that we are collaborating with the public. How the heck are you going to do that in 4 weeks and get a policy back to us? So I think from my point of view, the officers need to go away to understand what the guidance is saying, to say, are we missing what we've done so far? If we not, bring it forward. But if we feel this work needs to be done, it's only then can we set a time scale. Because if we have a meaningful consultation, collaboration with the public, it's going to take more than 4 weeks to do that and prepare a report. Sorry, Chair.
No, I accept that. Is that okay, Kat?
So we'll do that first then, the consultation first, and then bring that back then to scrutiny in when, April then?
25th of April will be the next one then. Will everything, is that enough time then for the consultation to be done and for the strategy to be updated and the communication engagement strategy? Brilliant. Okay. I just got two quick. Go on, Louise.
Sorry, Chair. Okay. I think just to add, as like in the report, who you've collaborated with, and I think making reference to the equalities officers, you know, because you know, I know you're saying that it's been done, but obviously if it's not in there, you know, people are going to ask those questions, you know. Sorry, Chair.
Thank you. Yeah, I just got two quick questions, relatively straightforward for myself. Under section 6.1 of the report, where it says, following some challenges on some contentious consultation and engagement exercises, just out of curiosity, really, what exercises were contentious and why were they contentious?
So the consultations that we had were very contentious. Was one which was the Ysgol y Graig one, that we did 2017, Councillor Mitten, yeah, and the other one was the and the other one was the 3 to 16 consultation. Yeah. It wasn't our process. There was nothing wrong with the process that we followed, because, as I said, we use the Consultation Institute, and they was particularly with the Ysgol y Graig one. They gave us good practice for that one. I think it was just looking at, as we've talked about, maybe a slightly different approach where we need to go to individual groups to explain the proposals in person rather than them seeing it via online or via you know, a consultation document, etc. It needed the communities to ask the supplementary questions to get a clearer understanding of the proposals.
You said, do you want to come in on this? So I got the question.
Just to support the officer, Chair, just to support Kerry in a remark that she made earlier as well. You know, I think there's sometimes what we need to try and do is get our message across to residents. Even if you're in support of something, we still need your feedback, because on analysis of both Ysgol y Graig and the 3 to 16, of which I was both heavily involved in, it was those who were, you know, quite rightly against it and had their opinions, and that's absolutely fine. But it was just trying to get that balance, if you like. And when you talk to people who were in favour and then perhaps disappointed that something didn't go ahead, you found that, oh, well, I didn't think I needed to, you know, because I was in favour of it. So it's just trying to find that balance. And I think our officer Kerry made that point earlier. So that is really important. And just on those points, Chair, because I was heavily involved, I must commend the team, especially with the 3 to 16 engagement, because they did go over and above. There was some constructive criticism given, and that was followed through within a matter of weeks in ensuring, even down to 2 letter drops as well as other correspondence. You know, but again, we can always learn lessons, can't we? Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Mitten. Yep, I think you're right. I think life is all about learning lessons and developing and moving forward with that. I think we've all got a part of that to play. Kerry, my last question is probably, it's been answered, but I will say, so it's just on record, is to what extent have our key stakeholders, such as the public, offers internally and external partners, been involved in the development of the strategy? But I think that's been perhaps teased out enough. Yeah. So I don't want to labour that point. Any further questions from members? Councillor Louise Minette Vaux.
Sorry, it's in relation to the Consultation Institute. So do you follow their advice by the letter, or because, you know, My concern is, we need to adapt it to the town, and obviously I'm not quite sure where these are based. Do you know what I mean? We need to know our audience, and if we follow in the advice from an organisation which has never met a person from Merthyr, it's shaping that and taking that into consideration as well.
Yes, no, it's just advice and guidance. Obviously, just they don't know our communities. We know the best way to engage with them. I mean, we found that out with Ysgol y Graig, particularly where we opted to have a co-production element of the consultation. So we made sure, because it was so volatile, wasn't it, Councillor Mitten, that, that was the only way we could do it. We take advice and guidance. They obviously will give us the legal stance on it as well. And sometimes I think we'd be silly not to take their advice on that.
Yes.
But no, at the end of the day, obviously we've got our own legal team. And I will, if I think that we're on the borders of, there could be an element of judicial review in the future, I would just rather obviously check that with them to make sure, that we're not going to face any hefty fines moving forward.
Lovely, thank you.
Councillor Lee Davis, I haven't seen your hand up. Any questions from yourself? Are you okay?
I'm okay, thanks, Chair.
Okay, there's no other indications of any questions. I'll move it over now to comments and observations. Okay, there's no comments and observations. Kerry, can I thank you for attending today? I hope it hasn't been too arduous. I know there's probably a lot of work which needs to go on now behind the scenes. Please obviously take everything which has been said today as supportive and some things which we can add on. And for the record, I'm happy to offer my support if you need any help with regards to this participation strategy and the communication strategy. And I'm sure all members here offer their support as well. So please feel free to reach out if you so need to. And just keep me up to date with regards to progress if anything is slipping or regards to timelines, and I'll just update everybody going forward. We're here to provide our support to you as well.
Lovely.
But thank you very much. Thanks for attending.
Thank you.
You're free to go.
Lovely, great, thanks.
Okay. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is agenda item 5, which is the report recommendations. The questions we've got to ask ourselves is, did we address the recommendations in each report, and how have we added value? So we look at the first item on the report, which is the EU replacement funding, levelling up and shared prosperity. And I'll just open it up to the floor to see what our thoughts were in terms of the conversations with regards to that. Councillor Mitten.
Thank you, Chair. I think we did. I think inevitably we have to revisit it because of the delays to the SPF. But I think as far as the CRF is concerned, I think that it was, it wasn't necessarily robust because it needn't be. It was just a case of finding out where we were at this particular juncture. But I think certainly going forward and finding out how we, have utilised now the SPF monies, because I am a little concerned that you do hear of a vast amount of money, and it's just making sure that that goes to the proper added value use that it should, and certainly not, as I said, gap fill any monetary funding financial gaps. So I think, and of course, as with wherefore, whereas the officer said that it's light touch at the moment, I think that what we need to be mindful of is that there will still be audits and the expectation of those outcome evaluations of those projects. So, you know, at an appropriate time, I think then we should just see how it's going on, perhaps, and then a final analysis as and when. Sort of, we're talking 2024, 2025, aren't we? But yeah, so have something midway and then something at the end. But that was my observation. Yeah.
I agree with that. Thanks, Lisa. Louise?
Mine is just in relation to the citing of the feedback from UK government in relation to the application being declined, the levelling up. And that we just don't lose sight of that as well. And obviously lessons learned going into round 3 with our new application. So yeah, that's just my feedback.
Okay, I think they said they'd let us know, didn't they? But safe, can we write to them? We make a point and we write to them to ensure this is a record of it then for them to come back to us.
Absolutely.
Is that okay? Yeah, we'll circulate that then. Kevin, Gary? Lee?
Yeah, good.
Kevin?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I think I'm going to agree with Councillor Mitten at the moment. This is an this is an early stage, and it's basically new funding that we need to apply for on a regular basis. But listening to the stories in the media, it looks like a lot of this leveling up is only being done in affluent areas of the country at the moment. So I think the team have got a very, very difficult job ahead of them. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on this one, I think, Chair.
Yeah, I totally agree. Thanks, Kevin. Okay, no other members have indicated, so we'll move on then to agenda item 4, which was the participation strategy. I'll open that up to members' comments. Councillor Mitten.
Well, Chair, I think it is what it is. I think you concluded it quite well midway after some good challenge from my colleagues in the chamber. And I think it just needs to be brought. I made some notes myself. I didn't bring them up then because I just thought I'll email the officer. But for instance, page 28, with regards to the legal terms, as a council, albeit I don't necessarily agree with this because cuts are cuts at the end of the day, but as a council, we commonly use the term efficiency savings. Yeah, you know, in there it says budget cuts. It's just you have to remember the wording when you're going out to public, isn't it? You know, or any public document as well. So, you know, it may seem a little bit anal. Apologies for that, you know, but it's just little things like that. And I think my colleague brought up about the scrutiny committees, you know, in there, and that was missing as well, you know. So I think, and then our co-opted member Gary also mentioned about some omissions in relation to guidance, Gary, as well, you know. So yeah, again, you know, we've seen it for what it is at this point in time, but inevitably some more work needed and that public consultation. So yeah, thanks.
Louise?
I think in relation to the stats that were said, 4% is classed as high, 1% you kind of lucky is kind of bad. I think we should aspire to hit more than that. And I think the fact that members of the public weren't consulted about it, we need to know what's the barrier. We need to move past that barrier, navigate around it to get people consulted and involved. And I can appreciate obviously the officer saying that the qualities officers have been spoken to, but that needs to be evidenced because there's a gaping hole in that report saying what those methods of I know obviously it goes hand in hand with the other one, but it just seems a lot of gaping holes that need to go away to be worked on. And that was it for me. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Louise. Gary?
It's just a concern really in that the excuses being made about we don't get responses to consultation. That misses the point. You have to consult. You have to make the best efforts you can to consult. And this is a statutory document guide we have to do. And yet we haven't followed the guidance that it should be done. And that's a weakness from our point of view as a council, on the basis that when you are regulated, that's a no-no straight away. So I think it's important that we start on the right foot. I think when we have a forward plan in the future to look at what they got planned to produce, and perhaps we will spend a bit more time ourselves looking for the guidance behind that for us to understand what the process is going to be. Today, now, we might have just signed off on that today without understanding that process, which is a bit of worry then, because we wouldn't be then challenging appropriately as a scrutiny. And I think also we need a bit of time. I may be wrong when I refer to the guidance. It's for them to go away now to have a look. Am I right? Am I wrong? If I am correct with the regulations and the guidance, they need to respond to that and tell us appropriately. Are they going to consult, or if they're not going to consult, the reasons for that? And that's the reason I suggested it won't take you 4 weeks for that, Chair. It'll take a little while longer than that. But don't lose sight of the two documents together. They'd be quite important as one document.
Thanks, Gary, and you're totally right in regards to the timescales. I didn't immediately recognise the consultation period, but I was conscious of the fact that I wanted to make sure she had enough time, because 4 weeks to me didn't seem enough time, and I didn't register with regards to the consultation, but immediately I thought 4 weeks wasn't enough anyway. For me, I was sitting here, and Kevin was the same about stopping the report and pulling it so we could take it away straight away. But I don't think we could have added our value if we had done that at that stage, because I think that needed to be added going forward. Disappointingly for me is the fact that this report was requested back last August, and it wasn't ready for December. Whether it was looked at or not, but it all felt a little bit too rushed with regards to a lot of things. So I'm hoping now that the department will go away and conduct a robust approach to this for our next meeting in April, and cross all the T's and dot all the I's with regards to everything. Thank you all for your contributions with regards to this report today. I think it was needed, and I think it was fairly challenged. I don't think it was unfair in any shape or form. And I also, it's for me, I'm chairing the meeting and we're all asking questions and things, but it's probably not a nice position for Kerry to be in, to be asked all these sort of questions. And then when you're thinking, well, if I haven't got the answers, you're thinking on your feet. So it's probably not a nice place to be either. But I think there's a lot of things to be taken from item 4 this meeting today with regards to participation strategy. So thank you all for that. And we'll keep on top of that. I hope you all didn't mind that I was volunteering your services if they were needed to be spoken to about the participation strategy. I'm sure we're all here to help anyway. Okay, thank you. Moving on then to agenda item 6, which is the Forward Work Programme 2022 to 2023. We've got it all. We're looking at the next one then, which is the 14th of March, which is the Human Resources Strategy. Safe, how meaty a subject are we looking at here? Because that's the only one on there.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. From my understanding, it's going to cover a various amount of topics which Hannah is going to bring forward. I haven't got a full list of information as to what it's going to cover, but if you like, I'll request this information from Hannah and circulate it to members so we know exactly what it is that we're going to be looking at in preparation for that meeting.
That'd be great.
No problem.
Is that okay for everybody? I'm also conscious of the fact that we've got a workshop now on Friday in regards to the customer service model, which we talked about a couple of months ago in Scrutiny. So I suppose depending on the result of this workshop on Friday, this could be agendaed for the 14th of March as well, potentially, unless anybody can think of anything else they would want to add into it. But I'm quite open to the fact of keeping that little bit of space free for the 14th of March to bottom out things which come out from Friday. But I'm open to members' thoughts on this process.
Chair, just a question on the workshop Friday, leading on from that. It's only 3 service areas we got on Friday. That's housing, highways and social services. Are they the only departments that are supported through the contact centre? Or is there going to be another workshop after with other areas? Or is the senior officer saying she has no problem with those other areas?
Yeah, thanks, Gary. I think that initial workshop is focused on those areas based on the discussions at Scrutiny on the 15th of November, when that customer services item was brought forward. I'd imagine there have been various issues potentially around other departments, but I think what we don't want to do is include all areas in one initial workshop. So I think there's some general things to cover, which Rebecca has emailed me and I've shared with you all. There's some general points of concern, but I think that initial meeting will just be to try and map out where the key issues are, and then we can perhaps expand our reach in terms of other areas then. But those are, from what I can gather, the three areas not potentially causing the most concern, but are areas to address based on accessibility. So I think those are the three key ones initially to look at in that workshop.
So you've had nothing from children's services yet?
Obviously have the other areas, obviously social will be split between children and adults. And even between children and adults, Louise will be able to weigh in on this, but there's such wide teams. There are so many different departments within children's services as well. So I don't know how really that will be covered. But again, if we don't have the information in time, we'll have to address that at the workshop. But hopefully we will have it in advance for members to, you know, sort of prepare their lines of inquiry.
No, I think it's fair perhaps to put on in March, Chair, the feedback from there, because I think we get a feeling on Friday for some of the underlying issues. Probably concentrate on escalation of service issues and how they're resolved, because I suspect there is a way of resolving them, but they're not being resolved at this point in time. I haven't seen some of the comments. They seem fairly straightforward. So we will get a feel Friday and then decide perhaps when we go from there.
Is everybody happy with that for the March 14th to keep that free until we decide after Friday? See if I wonder if it's worth reminding, dropping perhaps an email tomorrow morning to Children's Services about Friday, perhaps to put the report. Yeah. Just a gentle reminder. Moving on then to the last one of the working year then would be the 25th of April, which is the feedback from thematic wellbeing reviews from workshops, which we've got that one as well, but also we will have the participation strategy and the communication engagement strategy. So I think that's more than enough for those. Are we all happy to agree to the forward work programme then up until the end of the calendar year? Subject to any change come Friday, I suppose. Yeah, so far so good. Great, thank you. Moving on then to agenda item 7, which is scrutiny referrals. We haven't received any. Agenda item 8, feedback on scrutiny activities. Just to confirm, we have a workshop on Friday to expose some of the different more operating models. It's going to be in the council. It's going to be in committee room
3 and 4.
3 and 4. Safe, can you remind me the times?
Yeah, committee room 3 and 4, and it's 2 p.m. till 2:30 p.m.
That's great. Thanks, Safe. And Councillor Mitten is bringing a buffet for us. Bringing a buffet for us. Did I say it out loud? Agenda item 9. Any other business deemed urgent by the chair? I haven't. I haven't got any other things to bring up this evening. Can I thank you all for your attendance today? It's been a highly productive meeting. Thank you all for your questions and comments. Good evening.